And let's listen to what Willie has to
I was
say.
telling Steve, and he called me this week, and I was in North Carolina and asked me to do this, so I was kind of winging it. But I have to do a presentation next Wednesday, the 26th, and I've been given 8 to 10 minutes in this presentation. So this is my trial run for what I'm doing. I'm the executive director of this organization, a not-for-profit cultural arts organization called the Venetian Arts Society. And we started it only 3 years ago. Started it, didn't have a name, didn't really have a purpose other than it was a marketing tool for a business. I had a big interior design business here in Fort Lauderdale, and then I went into, I joined forces when the economy tanked with a former client of mine who was an art dealer, and we opened an art gallery / interior design studio. It had 6 rooms, and we did little vignettes around with furniture that I had arranged and actually designed, and she did the artwork, and we sort of made it all work. But we were 2 blocks off of Los Olas, and so it wasn't exactly a walk-by. We didn't get a lot of walk-by traffic, and we came up with this idea of having these little get-togethers and inviting people to come to them, and sort of like little 2-hour parties. And because in a previous life I had operated a hotel and restaurant with singing waiters and waitresses, I sort of had that. My education was music, so I had this information. I knew how to wait on people and serve food and schedule things. So we started doing these little get-togethers, and they turned from being, probably the first one was 10 to 15 people came. And then they just steadily grew. And they grew to the point that I was doing what I originally one time a month. And there were many months in that short period of time that we were in the gallery that I did 4 and 5 a month. And what we would do, it ended up, people weren't buying a damn thing. I didn't sell any. Very rarely did we sell it. I mean, the parties were the only reason people came.
Was there a cover to get in?
Well, we eventually had to start doing that. So we started charging the cover. And then we came up with this idea in the middle of the night. We were on the ground floor of a building called the Venezia over there, and we had had a big 2,000 square foot patio on a canal, and a building right across the way. It was this old Mediterranean 1920-something building. And at night, it really took on the effect of being on the canal in Venice. And we were in a building called Venezia. And the Fort Lauderdale is known as the Venice of America. So I, one night, in the middle of the night, just came up with this name, the Venetian Arts Society. And, I just made it up. And this was about 3 years ago. Well, anyway, my business partner got sick. She since died. And when she got sick, here I was dealing with an art gallery and had no experience in dealing with art. And I was losing money hand over fist. So I just closed that gallery, but I still had this Venetian Arts Society, and I had people that had bought memberships to it. I was selling memberships now, yearly memberships, and I had 135 members. So I decided I had to keep this thing going. So I moved it over, and I would do my monthly, what we call art salons at Stranahan House Museum, at Art Serve, at various places. And a former client of mine, George Hanberry, who's the president of Nova Southeastern University, they own the Museum of Art. He said, Willie, you should move that organization of yours down to the Museum of Art. Well, I haven't really moved down there per se, but what I did was I started this, because I was a singer, my education was in music, I started this Master Vocal Artist series, and it's a whole new division now of the Museum of Art. But the Venetian Arts Society are the main sponsors. I got from our members people to be founding angels, and I got people in the community to buy to businesses, Mercedes-Benz, Riverside Hotel, and all these people to buy ads in our programs. This was this year's series. Plus, there was one singer before who's not on this, so there's 4 of these a year. And the Venetian Arts Society is the main organization that promotes these. Well, our mission statement for the Venetian Arts Society is to celebrate the multicultural diversity of our community through all the visual and performing arts in an intimate and interactive setting that we call an art salon. And the art salon concept began back in the 16th century and became very popular all over Europe, but mostly France in the 18th and 19th centuries. And before TV, it was the way that they socialized, sort of like we're doing tonight. Talk and learn about music, art, politics, science, philosophy, anything. It was just whatever goes, no holds barred. But I call ours an art salon, and it's all the visual and performing arts, hopefully mingling at the same time and complementing one another, and so on and so forth. So that was the main concept. But here at the Museum of Art, I did one there, and I did it actually. The very first one we did was inside the museum, in the main gallery, in the middle of their art exhibition, the Uffizi art exhibition. Were you there?
Yes, that was excellent.
Yeah, and we had to get permission from the curator in Florence of the exhibition. We had to be so many feet from all these Botticellis and things, and so it was all Baroque and Renaissance art, and so we could get 117 seats in there, and it sold out in 3 days.
Great.
Yeah. And I had these two singers that were sort of like an Andrea Bocelli and Sarah Brightman kind of singers, and I brought in the children's choir from the Fort Lauderdale Children's Theater, and they did a couple of numbers, and it was just really cool, And those singers did a little master class with those kids the night before, and that's what gave me the idea of the master class. Nova Southeastern started a new visual and performing arts school. It's 3 years old. They built this magnificent building out there, and they had these wonderful facilities. It's not that great of a music school yet. They're 3 years old, But this is helping. This little series of ours feeds that as well, because Avery Summers, our next singer next weekend, is Broadway. And I've got 3 singers coming from their school to work on the master class. So the premise of this series is that we call it a grand art salon. It's a 2-day affair. It's a 1 hour to 60-minute to 90-minute performance, no intermission, straight through in the 256-seat auditorium. Up close and personal is what I call it. And so we bring in these international master vocal artists of different fields, and they perform on the great stages of the world. All of our singers this season have been sung at Carnegie Hall in the last 5 years. But they're all great singers and tops of their field. But the gimmick is that it's up close and personal. It's intimate and interactive. It's sort of like a cabaret setting in a way. So you get to see these great singers in a different light, and almost as close as we are, and eye contact. And actually, they're not only intimate, but they're interactive. So the artist actually instigates conversations throughout as she or he.
Can I ask how did you manage to get her into the program? I mean, that was a coup to get her, right? I mean,
Avery?
Yeah, to do something that intimate, that small of a venue.
Well, if you pay people enough, they'll do about anything. Yeah. I mean, Jane Monheit was probably
wow. Nice.
Yeah, they. The singer in October at Metropolitan Opera. 3,500 square foot. 3,500 seat house.
Right.
The great stages. But they love this concept. Yeah. Most great artists, not just people who are commercial artists, but the great artists welcome the opportunity. These people are people who perform with great orchestras and huge bands.
Right.
Here's
an opportunity for them to feel like they're giving back.
Yeah, not only that, but they get an opportunity to do something performing with just the piano or the piano and a bass. This is intimate chamber type music, if you want to call it.
And I really like it when they can turn off the microphone and you can actually hear their voice. That's what I love.
Well, yeah. Now with the opera singers, we don't mic them. But say the Broadway singer, she'll use a mic, and Jane Monheit, the jazz singer, a microphone is a huge technique. It's part of the technique. You learn how to use a microphone, fading, and you see singers how they move it back and forth and around. It's part of the technique. But the great thing is this little auditorium was built as an auditorium. It was built as a lecture hall. 256 seats. But thanks to George, they have, and Nova's money and power, they have, in the last few months, they have transformed that little lecture hall into a little concert hall. Put in an all new lighting system, all new top-notch, world-class sound system and lighting, as I said. And I don't know if the new seats, they're putting in new seats and recarpeting it. They painted it all. They redid the entire stage.
Is this the Paradiso we're talking about?
No, this is it's called the Horowitz Auditorium, and it's part of Museum of Art.
I'm familiar with it now. Okay.
Yeah, and this thing at Cinema Paradiso is outside the realm. See, the Venetian Arts Society is not just this series at the museum. These things at the museum are as large as I intend to get, 256 seats. I mean, because anything else it goes against the whole premise of. I mean, the whole art salon thing is meant to be intimate and interactive, and so that's why I'm no competition, to Broward Performing Arts or any of these other, even Parker Playhouse, because I was asked to do one at Parker Playhouse, and I said no, because if I step outside, this is successful and it's growing quickly, and people see the value in it. But for me to take it to a larger hall where, you can make more money, the more seats. But, and that's why it's so important that I go to do this thing next Wednesday and do it well. I need funding, because there's no way you can sell. I mean, the most, if you just depended on the seats, if every seat sold in that house for $60, which is what we're asking, 60, I mean, what are we, about $12,000 in ticket sales? Okay, well, the whole package costs $20,000 to put on.
Right.
By the time you do hotel and airfare for the artist, so on and so forth.
But you have your sponsors.
But we have our sponsors. Well, I say sponsors. Most of these are just advertisers at this point. What I'm going to this group for on Wednesday is to really get someone to sponsor this, because now there's an interest. Sun Sentinel actually came to me and asked me to be our media sponsor. So Jane Monheit was on the cover of Showtime, and we had a whole page on the inside, and so they're on there as our media sponsors are Sun Sentinel and City and Shore magazines, Classical South Florida Radio, Eye on South Florida TV, and a couple of others, that do it. That I give them 3 or 4 seats for each performance, and they give us all of these. I heard the commercial this morning for Avery Summers on Classical South Florida Radio, and I was like, wow! It sounds so cool, because they put her singing on it. But each one of them is a different. Like Jane Monheit was jazz, so I say on there Avery Summers, icon of musical theater. Jane Monheit was icon of jazz. And then in the fall, Leona Mitchell's icon of opera. Because see, the reason I chose chose the Master Vocal Artist series is specifically because that's the field I know about, and for this particular thing. But the Venetian Arts Society, every month we do an art salon of some type. Yeah, every month. And it's similar to this. And the last 2 that we've had, usually we average about 60 people, 60, 70 people. And it's still larger than the ideal. The ideal is about 20. But you know what? There's such an interest in it, and there's such a demand for it. And that's the key to our success is when we created this, I had no vision. I had none. It came as I realized that people wanted it. There was a void in the community that nobody knew existed. And it was a happy accident that we realized and it's an easy one to feel. Well, in the process of all this, now the city of Fort Lauderdale is interested in promoting this. Gail Butler at AutoNation, who handles most of their funding, called me to do this presentation for funding, because they see the value in this for the city of Fort Lauderdale. Fort Lauderdale does not really have an identity, a personality for the cultural arts. We have leftover things, and we have Broadway shows coming in, and there used to be more with that South Florida concert series that Judy Drucker did. She no longer does it, but it's really mainly associated with Miami. And then you have Palm Beach and the Kravis Center. And then a couple of things on Palm Beach. Well, there's money there to support that. But Fort Lauderdale sort of like is the stepchild, of the cultural arts scene in South Florida. And there's no need for it to be because there's a need for it here, and this is filling that need. Now, I see a lot of other things growing out of this. I mean, since I got sort of motivated and inspired to do this, I see a lot of other ways that this can go. But one of the things we're doing is in the process of, for example,